Grace be unto you and peace from God our Father and from the Lord Jesus Christ. I was glad when they said to me, "Let us go into the house of the Lord." I'm Father Steve Sellers, and thank you so much for tuning in today for this brief daily message of hope. My prayer is, as we are ending this week, that you are in a hopeful place and that you are finding opportunities to be of help to other people. I truly believe that's the key to our happiness and enjoyment and joy and peace in life, when we are of service to others. I was thinking this past couple of weeks, I've heard several times something I never used to hear before. I started studying psychology back in the early 1970s, and this word in my psychology classes never really came up much way back then in the Middle Ages, as my students sometimes say. But I've heard several people say that they're dealing with a narcissistic person, or they're married to a person who has a narcissistic personality disorder. We never used to hear that a lot back in the 60s and 70s and even in the 80s. We heard things like he's just too full of himself, or she's got a great big ego. We never did really hear too much about narcissistic personality disorders. We're hearing a lot about it now, and there's a reason for that I'll share with you in just a moment. I remember the Greek myth, maybe you do too, reading it as a teenager, of Narcissus. The Greek god Narcissus was beautiful and handsome and outgoing and a great hunter, and he was in search for the perfect spouse. He was on a quest to find the most beautiful and perfect person to be his wife. And all the goddesses that were handsome and beautiful and available flocked to him. And one by one, he found them all defective in one way or another. They didn't measure up to Narcissus's own standards of beauty and perfection. And one by one, he rejected all of them that were brought to him as not being suitable for him. He deserved better. Well, eventually, the goddess of vengeance, Nemesis, took Narcissus to a pond and showed him his reflection in a pond. And there, according to the legend, Narcissus saw the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen, his own reflection. So he fell in love with his reflection and lived alone the rest of his existence. Now, that's a cautionary tale about what happens when people are so full of themselves that there's no room in them for others. And often, as with everything else, Freud, of all people, took that and came up with different categories for narcissistic behavior. And now we have a full spectrum that we can look at of different levels of narcissistic disorder, and it is considered a mental problem. I was doing a little reading the other day and found a very fascinating article talking a little bit more about narcissism and narcissistic disorders and why it's so popular today. All the ingredients are in place for it to be a real problem in our society today. This article I was reading, it quotes a psychologist by the name of W. Keith Campbell, who has studied this at length, that the entertainment and advertising industries over the decades have whetted our appetites for status and have whetted an appetite for fame. We yearn to be special today, maybe more than ever before, although I don't agree with that part. I think people have always wanted to be special, and that's where the Lord comes in. We're special to Him, but I'll get to that in just a minute too. We've never had more opportunities today than ever to express our uniqueness and specialness so that we can admire ourselves and that others can admire us too. We can, for example, show off at any moment by taking a perfect selfie, or why just one selfie? Why not 150 selfies, so that we can show people what exactly we're doing from moment to moment. And the more we live in big cities, according to the psychologists, the more we are set up for shallow relationships. where we can keep our distance. And social distance and shallowness and an oversized ego are ingredients that can lead to people to turn inward and think only of themselves. We can also, and one of the symptoms of this, or the things that are indicative of this disorder, are that other people are treated as disposable. Other people are used for how they can feed the narcissist's ego, not their own. And the sad thing is that narcissists often exude great confidence and charm. They're often very attractive, and it doesn't show up until later. But according to the psychologists I was reading, we're seeing it all over the place now. It's one of the common diagnoses of people who have overinflated egos and have been treated as entitled beings to whatever they think they want. And it's a cesspool now, breeding people who have turned inward and looking only at themselves. We see it played out on the news all the time. People are in all of this for what they can get out of it. And our faith, however, as Christians, teaches us otherwise. We're not out to get anything out of this. We're to give. It's in the giving that we receive. And I guess the healthy way to look at it is that we are all different, and we are all special and unique in the eyes of God. He never created multiples of us. Even identical triplets or twins are different. They have a lot in common. I was reading a study a week or so ago about a set of triplets who were in their young adulthood who decided to do the DNA test. And it turned out they weren't all exactly alike. They had significant differences even in their DNA. And, that's God's sense of humor. We're all different, and we're unique because he wants us each individually to be objects of his love for us. He created us to love us and to return that love to him. He doesn't force us to do that. That's probably it is the greatest risk ever taken. God created us as his own beings with the ability to reject him. And that's a great risk to us. And it's injurious to our relationship with God and with others when we reject God. Look how it's played out in the news today of people who are worshipers of darkness. They do their deeds in darkness. I loved how one of Dr. King's daughters actually said that Dr. King never marched at night. Darkness brings out the idea of anonymity and hiding and concealing and getting away with things. Somebody once told me a long time ago that if you want to know what your character really is, what do you do in private? How do you act in private when only you see? Now, of course, we know that God sees all that we do. Darkness is not dark to the Lord. The night is as bright as the day, as the Psalm says. So, what is it that we are to do? I believe that we are to be humble followers of the Lord. Humility is the antidote, knowing that there is a God who's greater than us. And all praise and glory doesn't go to us, it goes to him. He is worthy of that, simply by the fact that he loves us and created us and put us here to serve each other. Mother Teresa showed us that a life can be spent in total service to others, and yet she was one of the giants of the 20th century and indeed of all time. A little 4-foot 10-inch Albanian nun, spent her life pouring it out for the Lord and for others, especially the least of the Lord's children. We're never greater than when we bend down to help someone who needs help. We're never more esteemed in the eyes of the Lord than when we do what Jesus wants us to do, to be of service to the least of his children, the hungry, the thirsty, the sick, the naked, those in prison, the strangers, the people on the margins of society. We're here to serve. Jesus said, even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. So our challenge, I think, and the good news for us is that we have a Lord who has made it possible for us to be not only special and unique, but to be of great service to Him by serving those around us. And I've been reading in the Paul's letter to the Ephesians lately, not in the last week or so, and just want to share with you a little bit from Ephesians chapter 5, starting at verse 8, telling about our former way of life before we came into the fellowship of the Lord and the way we are now, or should be. For you were once darkness, but now you are light in the Lord. Live as children of light. For the fruit of the light consists in all goodness, righteousness, and truth. And find out what pleases the Lord. Have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them. For it is shameful even to mention what the disobedient do in secret. But everything exposed by the light becomes visible, for it is light that makes everything visible. We live in the light. Jesus has given us His light. We are light bearers in a world that's enthralled with darkness. And we're to shine the one little candle for them to see that there is a better way to live. And we do it by the way we live even more than what we say. I hope your week is ending in a great place now. God bless you, and I will see you right here again tomorrow.